Hello everyone, I hope you're having a blessed day. I haven't been on here for a few weeks. I had some oral surgery because I had a dentist mess up on my tooth, which caused me to have to get two of them extracted, which was a horrible experience. So I've been in a lot of pain on this side of my mouth. But anyways, that's part of life. So what I wanted to speak to you guys about today was a little bit of music theory. Usually when I start off teaching private lessons to students, I always start them out with the basics of music theory. Now, if you guys don't know anything about music theory, it's important to learn certain things, obviously. And one of the things that I always stress to learn first, is the notes of a chromatic scale. The reason why that's important is because that's going to help you move your chords around. So for instance, if you learn the cage system, which the cage system is just the letters of the word cage, are 5 shapes that you should know, which you guys probably all know. So for instance, C would be the first shape. Everyone knows the C chord. Then A is the next letter in the word caged. That would be the next shape. Then G is the next shape. And then E, and then D. Those, of course, are all major chords. Now, the reason why I'm calling them shapes is because depending on where I play that shape on the guitar is going to determine what chord it is. So, of course, if I play it in the first position, up here, it's going to be what you guys know them as, which that's a G. But if I move the chord up here, then it becomes a different chord. So that's why it's important to learn your chromatic scale, because it's going to help you understand all the notes on the fretboard. So if you don't know the chromatic scale, you can look it up online, but it's, we're just gonna say it like this. It's like A sharp. So if you were writing it out, don't forget your sharps can also be your flats depending on the keys that you're in. So it would be A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, and then back to the beginning, A. So those would be your 12 notes. So in between, so for instance, A sharp, B, the A sharp could also be B flat. So if I'm moving it up a half step from A, I can call it A sharp, or going the other direction, I can also call it a B flat because it's a half step lower than B. So don't get confused if you see B flat, it's also A sharp, and vice versa with the other sharps. It can be either the letter name like F sharp or G, which is the next note, flat. So that's how you would do that. And why that's important is this, and this is what I wanted to show you today. So what I teach my students is, where do you put the capo on the fretboard to play in a different key, okay? So what I normally teach my students is usually 4 different keys. And I'll show you with examples here in a minute why these particular keys are the ones that I show people. And the keys that I show them are the key of G major, so all the chords in G major, and then the key of C major, so all of the chords in C major, and then the key of D major, all of the chords in that key, D major, and all of the chords in the key of E major. And the reason why is because those are the 4 keys that work the best when you're moving your capo around. So let's just start there. So if you don't know all the chords in the key, say, of G major, all they are is, just remember when you're, the 1, 4, and 5 of each key is going to be major chords, and the 2, 3, and 6 of each key are going to be minor. And then the 7th chord is going to be a minor, a half diminished chord, or some, or you can call them a minor 7 flat 5 if you're looking at it as a 7th. But this would be the chords in the key of G. G, and then A minor, then B minor, C major, D major, E minor, and then here comes that's your minor, your half diminished chord, and then back to the G. So those are all the chords in the key of G. So based on that chromatic scale, let's just say we're in the key of G, and I'm playing with a female singer now this week, and the song that we normally play in G, let's say if a guy was singing it, now all of a sudden we need to go, we want to play it higher, in a higher register. So we want to today play it in B major, okay? So this is what it looks like. So check this out. So if I put the capo here, so this nut right here, they call that the nut, that's like the capo. So if I put the capo right on the nut like that and I play just a normal G, that's what it looks like. So when we're changing keys and moving this chord shape around, we're not only moving the chord, but we're moving the nut, which is this, of the guitar, up or down. So that becomes the nut of the guitar, the capo does. So the reason why this chromatic scale is important is for this reason. So if I'm playing a G shape and I now want to play in the key of B major using the chords that are in the key of G that I just showed you, you're going to have to walk the G chord up until it turns into a B major chord. And so using the chromatic scale, this is where it comes into play. So if I'm playing a G, that's my bass note, G. Now I'm going to walk it up in half steps based on that chromatic scale. So the next note after G is G sharp. The next note after G sharp is A. The next note after A is A sharp. And then the next note after A sharp is B. So there's the B. Now if I play that G chord here, that would be a B major chord now using a G major shape. So that's what the cage system is. But because the nut is all the way back there, now I'm going to have some open strings that aren't going to sound right. So you see, I can't play a normal chord now because these open strings that I'm playing in this shape aren't in the key of B. So that's why we use the capo now. So what we're doing now is we're moving the nut. That's the nut, and now we're going, we're moving it all the way up. And then we're going to play there. So when you're playing your G-shaped chord, just remember your capo, when you're playing in the key of G, all those chords I showed you, your capo is going to be positioned 1, 2, 3 frets back from where your bass note is. Okay, that's all you have to remember. So we walk it up. We're going to play, let's say the key of C. Playing G, G shape, meaning G in the key of G, all the chords that are in the key of G. We're going to walk that bass note up, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C. Now we put our capo 1, 2, 3 frets back. So that's where our capo is going to go now, right here. And now if I play a G, all those chords that I showed you, A minor, B minor, C, D, E, that diminished chord, and then G. Now we're playing in the key of C, using the chords, the chord shapes from the key of G. So that's how your capo works. It's the same thing with the key of C major, okay? So, for in the key of C, these are the chords in the key of C major. C, D minor, E minor, F major, or a bar chord, G major, A minor, and here comes that diminished chord again, back to the C, So those are all the chords in that key. And again, the 1, 4, 5, C, F, and G are major chords. And the 2, 3, and 6 in the key, which would be D minor, E minor, A minor, are all minor chords. And then your 7th chord in that key is going to be that half diminished chord, which you're very seldom going to use that chord in worship music. Every once in a while, you'll hear it, but very seldom. You won't have to worry about that. Okay, so the 3 major chords, the 3 minor chords, those are the ones you focus on. So let's say I'm playing in the C, key of C, but let's say all of a sudden I want to play in the key of E flat major. Okay, so let's say, normally you would play in the key of E, and this is what you see these worship guys doing. Brandon Lake, Phil Wickham, Brooke Lidgerwood, they all do this. Josh Baldwin, they all tune their guitar down. So a lot of them tune the guitar flat. Phil Wickham does all the time. And so he takes every string of the guitar and he tunes it down a half step. So he's tuned in the key of, E flat it would be. So if I'm playing an E chord like that, it's no longer an E major chord because I'm tuned down a half step. So now it's in the key of E flat. So if you're trying to play along to his songs sometimes, and you go, wait a minute, it looks like he's playing an E major, shape, but it's not sounding right. That's why they do it. Same thing with that new song him and Brandon Lake just came out with, The Love of God. You watch them play it, they're using G, but they're tuned down a half step, so they're really playing in the key of G flat. So what I'm teaching you today will really help you, because you don't always want to alter all the tuning of your guitars, because one, it's not good for your guitar. Because when you take your guitar to a luthier or somebody to get it set up when you first buy it, you pay $60, $100 to get it set up exactly the way you like it. The intonation, you want the strings, the height of the string from the neck to be just right so it plays really great. And the minute you start changing the tunings on your guitar, now the tension on the neck changes and your neck goes this way or that way, it starts buzzing, all sorts of things start happening. So, what I do is I get my guitar set up a certain way, meaning this guitar is set up standard tuning. I have another guitar where when I'm learning songs and I want to play exactly the way they're doing it, I have it tuned down a half step, but I have my friend who's the luthier, he sets up the guitar tuned flat, and I never change the tuning of that guitar. Okay, so this is why the capo comes in handy. So let's just say Phil is playing in the key of E major, and you want to play along to him, but you can't because he's in E flat, because he's tuned down a half step. So what you would do now is you would use one of those other keys. Like I told you, learn the chords in C major, learn all the chords in D major, learn all the chords in E major, all the chords in G major. So for this example, we're going to use the ones in C major that I just showed you. So we're going to do the same exact thing now, walking up the bass note, which on this chord would be right there on the C note. So now we want to play an E flat. So we have to walk it up. C, C sharp, D, D sharp. Now remember, I told you the sharps can also be flats. So D, D sharp, or there's the E, E flat. Flatting it means lowering it a half step. So it can either be D sharp or E flat. So this is where we would play our C chord, our C shape. Okay, now remember, the nut is here with the capo. That's the nut, right? Now we got to move the nut. So where do we put the capo in order to play an E flat? Well, from this bass note, same thing. We count back 1, 2, 3. So watch. Move that up here. There's our bass note. We go 1, 2, 3, and we put the capo right there. And now when we play here, we're in the key of E flat. And we use all of the chords that were in the key of C major. C, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, the B minor with the flatted fifth, C. So that's how you would, do it there. Now, we could also play using D shape. The reason why we won't use the G is because it would be way too high. Watch. So if I wanted to walk the G one up, remember we walk the bass note up using that chromatic scale. We would go G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp. There's our D sharp or E flat. So we would have to play the G chord way up here. And then remember, we put the capo 3 frets back, 1, 2, 3. So it would go right here. Okay, let's put it down. But it's going to be so high, it's going to sound like a mandolin. I mean, you could. Now you're just going to use all the chords that are in the key of G major because we're using the G shape to start. Okay, so that's how you'd play it in E flat there. Now, if I wanted to play it using the key of D major, okay, we would first need to know all the chords in D major, which would be D major. Next chord would be E minor. Next chord is F sharp minor. Right? G major, A major, B minor. Now we go to C sharp half diminished to the D. So those would be all the chords. So we would walk it up the same way. That would be D. Half step would be D sharp or E flat. So if we wanted to play an E flat using the key of D major, we would play there. Now, what we do here though is this. Because remember, our open string on the D chord is our bass note. So our next note would be D sharp right here. That's our bass note, or E flat. So our capo now would go right here, and our D chord will be played there. Okay, so if you want to look at it like this, from your D shape, you have 1 fret in between, and then your capo goes another fret back. So you could technically go 2 frets back. That's how you'd remember the key of D. Now I'm playing the same exact thing that I was when I played the G up here, where I played the C there, and now I'm playing it here. So now I would just play all of the chords that are in the key of D major to play in the key of E major, E flat major, excuse me. So that's how your capo works, okay? So E major, okay, look, so let me give you a couple examples from songs now, all right? So let's go to the first one. Let's see, okay, Battle Belongs, okay? Battle Belongs, Phil tunes his guitar down a half step. So when you watch him playing it live, he's playing a regular D chord with no capo on. But if you try to play that D chord, you go, it doesn't sound right. That's because he tunes every string down a half step, okay? So what we need to do now is we need to figure out what shape can we use to play in the key of D flat. So I would use the C chord, okay, and I would walk it up. So C, there's my bass note, C sharp or D flat. So there's the chord. Now we just have to put our capo 3 frets back, like I told you when you're using the key of C. So you would go 1, 2, 3. Capo first fret. Now when I play C, I'm playing a D flat chord using a C shape. And that's how it goes. an F. I just play it like that. A minor. When all I see is a mountain, you see a mountain move. Okay, so that's how you would play along with him. All right, let's go to the next song. Love of God, that new song they came out with. They're playing it in the key of G flat. So if you wanted to tune each string down a half step, you could just play in the key of G major, all the chords in the key of G major, and you'd be playing in the key of G flat if you tune them all down a half step. But if you don't want to tune it down, then we need to put the capo somewhere. So if you watch the video, let me see here, let me turn this on. They came out with a video where Phil's playing on the piano and Brandon's playing, but I believe, if I remember correctly when I did the video, they're also playing a song session version, let me see here, where they're both playing on guitar. Let me refresh my memory. Hold on. Let's go to the beginning. Let me see just to be sure who's doing what. I forgot. Okay. Okay, so it still looks like they're tuned down a half step and they're moving to get, it looks like the capo's up higher. So anyways, this is what they're doing. So since they're in the key of G flat, Brandon starts out the song and he's using the shapes as if he was playing in the key of E major, okay? So if I'm playing in E major, these are the chords. E major, here's an E. Next chord's F sharp minor. Next chord's G sharp minor. Next chord is A major. B major. So it's like that up there with a bar, right? And then C sharp minor, and then that half diminished, which is a D sharp flat 5, back to the E. So those are the chord shapes that Brandon's using. But because he's playing in the key of G flat, we have to walk the chord up. So we'd go E, that's our bass note, F, F sharp, or G flat, okay? So if we put our capo down, and now we play an E major, it's like playing a G flat major. So let me show you. This is another way that you play an E major bar chord. So that's a G major, a G major bar chord. So I'm using an E shape to play a G major bar chord, and that's the cage system. So I'm moving it up and going E, F, F sharp, G. But remember, we flat because they tune flat, so we lower the chord down to here. So there's the E major chord. That's where the capo goes, right where your finger is. So on the E major shapes, your capo goes right next to the chord. Okay? So that's all you remember for E major. So that's where my capo goes. And now, it's so good, I almost can't believe it. Right? Let's not listen. Let me turn it up a little. Okay, so that's the song. Hold on, I got Phil's part up. Let me get Brandon's part up. Okay, so he's just going, it's so good, I can't believe it, far beyond. He's going to an A. What hearts could ever dream. There's the B. So you see how we're playing in the key of E major, using E major shapes playing in the key of G flat. Okay, so that's how that works. All right, now Phil's doing this. Let's go back to his. Phil's using the key of D major, and he's walking up the D chord, and he's playing it using the key of D major. So he's going D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, or G flat. Okay? So remember what I was telling you, we got to put our capo, like if it's there, we put our capo 2 frets back. So if I'm playing up here, like I just showed you, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, I got to put the capo right here on this fret right here. 2 frets back. See? There's the D, 1 fret, 2 fret. So, it's so good, I almost can't believe it. Far beyond what hearts could ever dream. The God who set the galaxies in motion would be found to give his life for me. So he's playing the same exact key that Brandon's playing, but he's playing in the key of D major for his chord shapes, where Brandon's playing in the key of E major for his chord shapes. Okay? And that's a cool way to do it because it doesn't sound the same, meaning it gives a little bit of color. If they both were playing it exactly the same way, you wouldn't be able to distinguish anything. But that's a cool way, you know, to make it sound more colorful when you're playing with another guitar player. Okay? Let me give you one last example. Brooke's song, Who You Say I Am. Okay, she does the same thing. She's playing it in the key of G flat. So she's playing the chords out of the G major scale, but she tunes each string down a half step. And then she can just play all the chords that are in the key of G. But if you wanted to play in G flat, you would have to do it 2 ways, which would be the way I just showed you. So you would have to capo here, and you would play in the key of E major using the chords in E, or you'd have to capo up here, like Phil was doing, and then you would play it up here. So that's how you would play along if somebody, tuned their guitar down flat for this song. So it's like, let me see if I remember. Hold on. Okay, so that's how you'd play it using the key of D major, but playing in G flat major. All right, so there you go. It's about a half an hour long. There's a little quick lesson for you. But this is a great exercise for you guys. And I challenge my students, meaning I'll give them a chord chart as homework. I'll say, hey, take this home, come back. I want to see you play this song. When they get here, I throw a total wrench in the whole plan. I go, okay, here, I want you to play that song that you learned in that key, but I want you to use the key of C major and show me where you're going to put the capo and where you're going to play it and how you're going to play it. So, that's part of how I get them used to a little bit about music theory. And in order to do that, you have to memorize that chromatic scale, which if you don't know it again, you can look it up online. But again, the notes are A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, and G sharp. Those are the notes. And by doing that, you'll start to know all the notes on the fretboard. So I'll quiz people that I teach when they're first starting out. I'll say, okay, on the D string, show me the A note. Okay, so I make them go D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A. So they find the A's. Okay, so after a few weeks of, making them study the chromatic scale and being able to do it, when I can tell that they understand notes now where they can find them like that, then eventually what I start telling them is, okay, now show me all of the notes, the A notes on the fretboard. So that way they're starting to recognize, where they're at. And it really helps you, So like that, things like that. It's important, you quiz yourself. Call out a note after you learn some of the stuff I'm teaching you and quiz yourself. Say, where are the F notes, on the fretboard? And then you just go to them and you start going boom. So you learn your notes like that, and it really opens up the fretboard to you to where you start visualizing it and you go, oh, I know. And then it really helps you with playing melodies and solos and things like that. Okay? So that's that for now. If you have any questions, I always leave my email in the description. You can reach out to me, and I hope this was helpful to you, all right? And I hope you have a blessed day. And as always, glorify God with your gifts and talents. God bless you guys.